Hey guys, so I was originally going to do a sermon, but I figured I'll have plenty of opportunities as a Christian ministry major to do a sermon in the future, and most of you professing Christ will have opportunities to hear sermons. So I wanted to do something a little bit different that is close to my heart and important to me that I want to share with you guys.
Which can happen when the government finds itself deeply in debt with no way to pay. It takes customized. More money to buy its own bonds, which are used to pay the bills. Wait, what? The more money floating around out there, the less value it has. Meaning prices go up. It would take a whole lot more of the greens to buy that car, that house, that Xbox, that television. Not you and me, you know, we. And your savings account. Ever heard of the incredible shrinking man? Yeah, that would be your savings with hyperinflation. Or is there another way? Hyperinflation hits an economy like a series of teenagers, which go 100 times more violent than it was before. Imagine seeing the prices of everything you buy double every day. It happened in Germany in the 1920s and in Zimbabwe in 2008. Imagine that. You pay $2 for a loaf of bread today, $4 tomorrow, $8 the next. By the end of the month, that loaf of bread will cost you over $2 billion. That's not fantasy. That's exactly what happens. Wages can't keep up and the money becomes pretty wallpaper. Worse. What to do? Once hyperinflation hits, well, you're screwed. The key is to stop it before it starts. Face the music, now spending. Lower that tax, and we're crying out loud, stop printing that money. Otherwise...
Okay, so as the video said, hyperinflation happened in Germany in the 1920s. And if you remember learning in history class, that was about the time that World War I ended. And what happened was, all the damage done from that war was placed on Germany, and they had to pay it off. And so they had this huge debt that just came all at once. And what Germany decided to do is they decided to monetize the debt. And what that means is they literally just printed off the numerical amount of money they owed and paid it off. Now, they paid off their debt. The only problem was they had so much money to the German economy so quickly that each German dollar became severely less valuable. And that caused hyperinflation. And as we said, you know, first of all, for about $2, then $4, then $16, and it goes up and up and up. And I think there's a potential for this to happen in America. And I'm going to show you why right now. This is a national debt clock. And if you take a look, we are at $15.5 trillion in debt right now. Now, take a look over there, the green number. That is our how much money we get from taxes every year in the government. We get about $2.5 trillion. Currently, it is about impossible to pay off our debt. So here comes my question. What happens if China calls in their debt? I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but if China calls in their debt, there's not much we can do. Now, there are a few options. We could try and stimulate the economy growth. We could try and raise our taxes, or we could try and cut spending. Or we can monetize the debt, but we don't want to do that because that would cause hyperinflation. Now, the problem is, growing our economy, our current GDP is about $15 trillion, less than what we owe. So we would have to grow our economy so much that we'd be taxed more than what we're currently making per year. We could try and raise our taxes, but how do you raise taxes to the point of $15.5 trillion when we're not even making that much money? We could try and cut spending, but if you look at the pattern of government right now, you would notice that we're not very good at cutting spending. And so it comes down to, there's a good chance that America might monetize our debt if the time comes, in which case we would enter into hyperinflation, at which point all the money we have becomes worthless, and we can't provide for ourselves or for our families. And I don't want that, and I'm sure you don't want that, and so I'm here to offer a potential solution for what you might be able to do to prepare yourself. Now, could you imagine yourself in a hyperinflated economy where you are at a point that you cannot provide for yourself or for your family? That would be devastating. Now imagine the converse. Imagine being in a hyperinflated economy, but you prepared ahead of time, and you can provide for yourself and for your family. Imagine if every Christian did this. We could be the body of Christ and provide for everyone who did not prepare as the church. We could literally be the hands and feet to be prepared for what could potentially happen in the economy. Now, I'm going to present my call to action. I want you all to consider following these 5 points. These are 5 things that I believe you can do to help prepare yourself for a situation where this might happen. Okay? Now, what we are doing is we're not trying to stop the government from stopping hyperinflation because I don't think it's possible at this point. I mean, we're kind of backed into a corner as far as the government goes. What I'm going to show you how to do is prepare your personal economy, the money that you deal with as far as your income and your expenses, so that way you might be prepared when the time comes. And there are 5 points. If you have a paper in front of you, you might want to write this down. Point number 1, get out of debt. Now, this is kind of obvious. If you get out of debt, you have more money coming in, and then that's more money you can spend and save and invest as you see fit. Okay. Point number 2, plan for shelter. Now, as prices raise in a hyperinflated economy, that will mean apartment costs and rent will increase at that same rate. So if you can't afford a loaf of bread, imagine trying to afford rent. It would be pretty hard. So my recommendation is do everything you can to own some piece of land. Now here comes the problem. We're all college students. How are we going to own land? All our money is going towards school right now, and we're hardly being able to pay for that. So my recommendation is have a plan for shelter. I'll give you my example. I'm blessed enough by God to have a close relationship with my parents, and if the time came, I'd be able to live there if, expenses permitted. That's point number 2. Point number 3, plan for food. Hyperinflation hits, you might not be able to afford food, and you need food to live. So what do? You plan ahead for it. There are companies such as food insurance where you can actually buy food in advance, about 3-4 months, and it'll store for 25, 30 years. And if the time comes when you cannot financially afford food, it would become less of an issue. And another thing you might want to consider is, if this happens, a barter system might come into play. If you invest in long-term foods such as rice or dry beans, there are foods that last a long time, can be used wisely, and they can be used for barter because they can be measured out, and like I said, they last a long time. Point number 4, you're going to want to consider having some sort of investment in your education that will put you in demand if hyperinflation hits. I'll give you my example again. After Great Lakes, I'm considering getting some sort of 2-year associate certificate sort of thing, perhaps carpentry or plumbing or something where hyperinflation hits, I become a necessity to help the community around me because people will still need plumbing of some sort at times. People will still need carpentry. Thank you. So that's something to consider. Is there some way that you can still be in demand and contribute to the society when that happens? Point number 5, invest in commodities now that you feel will be useful in troubled times. For example, if we get hyperinflation, we can't afford food, what becomes more valuable, gold or food? Food. Because who wants gold when you can't even eat? So if you invest in things like that, it will allow you to barter, it will allow you to have some sort of savings in other places. Now, you might not want to invest in gold, but maybe investing in silver might be a good thing because silver is not just a precious metal, but it has industrial purpose and will be used even in a hyperinflated economy. Maybe you want to consider talking about machinery and industrial. You might want to consider investing in oil because that will be hyperinflated. Maybe invest in foreign currency. The U.S. dollar is worthless, but what about the yen? Has their dollar become worthless yet? Maybe the Canadian dollar, maybe the euro. Okay. Anyway, in conclusion, what are you going to do to prepare if this happens? Will you be able to provide for your family? All right.